Good morning everyone and welcome back to my channel English Literature. Today we are going to read Browning's My Last Duchess as a dramatic monologue. In our previous video we have discussed the poem line by line. And here today we want to explore Browning My Last Duchess as an example of dramatic monologue. How far the components, the silent features of dramatic monologue are intact in this poem. Okay. Now, My Last Duchess by Browning, and it is a dramatic monologue. Excellent example of dramatic monologue. It appears in Browning's first collection of shorter poems, that is Dramatic Lyrics, published 1842. I have told about this information in the previous video, but I just add them even in this video. The poem was first printed with another poem, Count Gismond. Both were published under the heading Italy and France. So what was the poem that was published along with this poem? It can be said in the question paper of UGC NET. And what is the title? Historical fact. The Duke character is based on a historical fact, as like Fra Lippi or Andrea del Sarto. Here the Duke is modeled on the character Alfonso II, the last Duke of Ferrara. He was married to Lucrezia de Medici, but the marriage lasted 3 years as the Duchess died mysteriously. The Duke then negotiated to marry the niece of the Count of Tyrol, and an ambassador or envoy has come to negotiate or talk over the prospect of the marriage. And from there the poem actually starts. Now, we are not going to discuss the poem again. We are going to discuss how far this poem explore or competent with the features of a perfect dramatic monologue. We all know that Browning is the mastermind of dramatic monologue. In Tennyson, we also find this feature of dramatic monologue, but in Browning's hand, it is modeled and it is explored in greater way, wider variety. Now, what is dramatic monologue? I have quoted from Bedford Glossary of Literary Terms. It is a kind of lyric poem. So number one feature, it must be lyrical. Next, the speaker addresses number two, there will be speaker. Number three, silent listener. Number four, revealing himself or herself in the context of a dramatic situation. So there must be a dramatic situation. Number five, and take it as number four, revealing. There must be some revelation of character. So number one, it is a lyric poem. Number two, the speaker addresses a silent listener. So there is a speaker and there is a silent listener, and there is also we, the reader. There is a revelation of character. Number five, there is a context or dramatic situation is here. So this feature that I marked as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we will search these features in this poem. Okay, that will be our struggle today. Now next, the speaker provides information not only about his or her personality, but also about the time, the setting, key events, and any other characters involved in the situation at hand. Okay, so the speaker not only speaks about himself, but of course he speaks about himself and also introduces the other features associated with him and his existence. A dramatic monologue is not one speech by one character, but through it a greater and wider dramatic situation is revealed. A dramatic monologue is a hybrid of genres, a perfect melange of drama and lyrics. Dramatic monologue was molded and perfected by Robert Browning in his poems like Andrea del Sarto, My Last Duchess, The Bishop's Orders, His Tomb, etc. Now, number one. What is the number one? A single narrator. In every dramatic monologue, there must be a single narrator, not too many. And that narrator must not be the writer of the poem. He is some character. He is a character. Any character, historical character or any character. But the narrator must not be the poet. Here, who is the character? Here the character is the Duke of Ferrara. And the narrator is of course not Robert Browning. Okay. The Last Ride Together, there was also a narrator. We read the poem early. If you search, go to the playlist Robert Browning. Search in my channel the playlist Robert Browning. Then you can find there other poems by Robert Browning. Next feature, set up in a specific situation based on a critical moment. So in this poem, we are introduced with a specific moment, a critical situation. What is the situation? An ambassador has come to negotiate the marriage of the Duke as his wife has died. So negotiate the marriage of the Duke with another woman from a very respected family. So in that situation, this poem is based on this situation. Okay. Number 3. The narrator addresses and interacts with one or more people. Okay. The narrator, there is a silent listener, the presence of a silent listener. When the narrator addresses, when the Duke addresses, you just sit and watch this. There we find in that word you, the existence, the presence of another person. Again, when the Duke said, okay, let's go, we together we are going to meet the people who are sitting near, below, so just go and meet them. In that section, we also found the presence of the listener. So there was not only the narrator, but also a listener was present there, who was listening to the speeches of the speaker. And from the speaker's word, you can understand his responses. The question he is asking, the answer you want to know, and what he is doing, sitting or standing or whatever it is. From the responses, all the responses of the silent speaker, the silent responses you can hear from the speeches of the speaker. Okay, number 3. Now in number 4, we are going to explore another feature, that is, readers comprehend the theme and the presence of invisible audience from the discourse of a single speaker. So, the speaker is everything here. The speaker is going to tell everything about the poem, about the situation, about the silent listener, and readers can understand everything from the speech of the narrator or the speaker. Number 5. The poet's main concern is to expose the temperament and character of the narrator. Here the Duke of Ferrara's character is exposed through the monologue. So the poet's main concern is to explore the character of the narrator. Here the poem is exploring the character of the Duke. The Duke is speaking about his last wife, who has so many faults in her character. But in the course of his speaking, we come to know about the faults and the characters of the Duke himself. So the poet's main concern is to expose the character of the speaker. Okay. Now number 6. Dramatic structure. Okay, there must be something dramatic. As the opening scene, I have talked that opening scene. What there is, the Duke is addressing the listener. Okay, see, this is the picture of my last Duchess, and it is only me who can draw the curtain. And it is seemed that as if she is alive, and Frap and Love has drawn it. So these things are introducing in a very dramatic way. The opening is very dramatic. Opening is starting with an action. That what is the action? The action is the Duke is drawing the curtain from a picture of his last Duchess. So there must be a dramatic structure, and these features that we are discussing this feature in respect of the poem My Last Duchess. Next, imaginary conversation. Okay, there must be an imaginary conversation. It is a bit tough, just not so tough. We can discuss it. This theory was developed by Walter Savage Landor, where historical characters engaged themselves in imaginary conversation. In Browning's poems like Pralipulipi and Redel Sato are historical characters engaged in imaginary conversations. In Landor, the imaginary conversation is a two-way exchange where one speaker dominates the other, who acts as a provoker. In Browning, the second speaker disappears altogether, but we can guess the silence presence by which he or she shapes the dramatic situation, implicitly affecting the dramatic intensity as a whole. Okay. What I want to convey here, that is, This imaginary conversation, it is a vital force of a dramatic monologue. And this theory was popularized by Walter Savage Landor. But there are some difference between Browning's imaginary conversation and Landor's. In Landor's and Browning, they both involve the historical figures like Andrea del Sarto, Filippo Lippi, Duke of Ferrara. Also in Landor we find that. But what is the difference? In Landor, there is two persons involved perfectly. One is instigating and other is the speaker. But the conversation is two-way. They are talking simultaneously. One is dominates, the other acts as a provoker, but they are talking simultaneously. But in Browning, the listener is totally silent. We can understand the presence of the listener only from the mode of speaking of the speaker. From the speaker's responses, from the speaker's words, we can contemplate, we can guess the presence of the speaker, presence of the listener. They are not two-way speaking. The silent listener is not speaking, but we can understand that there is a silent listener. When the Duke is saying, you see this, or stand up and go meet the people below. So from that speech of the speaker, but there is not a single word or sigh we can hear from the listener. So that is the difference between Landor and Browning. But they both are for imaginary conversation. The conversation is totally imaginary. So this is also a silent feature of dramatic monologue. The number 8, irony. Most vital, very significant ingredient of Browning's monologue. Browning can be termed as a profound ironist. In Browning's dramatic monologue, the characters project one image of themselves, but the ironic ambience of the poem suggests just the opposite. Here there will be, yes. As in my last Duchess, the Duke tried to project an image of himself as a grand, sophisticated, 900 years name, elite person of high rank. But he just appeared as a buffoon, just like nothing. From his whole speech, he appears as very arrogant, very snobbish, and cold-blooded, cruel, arrogant, snobbish, vain, priggish, whatever you say, he is such and such things. What he actually want to represent himself as is totally get destroyed, totally collapsed. The illusion that he created around himself just totally collapsed. And when he want to present the Duchess as a flirtatious character, very prone to get satisfied or happy at everything, he's not just modest. She has so many faults, but in reality, the Duchess appears very amiable and very sophisticated woman who is very full of gratitude for everything and who has no vain glory for anything, who cannot discriminate, who cannot see the discrimination between things. She is very amiable person. She feels happy even at the sight of the sunset, even at the sight of her mule. Even someone give her very small things as a gift. She cannot discriminate. So the irony is in the fact that when the Duke is trying to present himself as a towering figure, he appears as a nincompoop, a dwarf. But whom he is trying to defame is appearing as a very grand character. That is the Duchess. Now, again the irony is prominent not only characteristic but also in the situation. Like at the end when he is saying that I only concern for your daughter, tell the Duke that I am only concerned for the daughter, not the dowry. But from her very speech, it is very, you can assume it is very prominent that he is also a very greedy person. He knows, he desires, he wishes for the money of his would-be in-laws. Okay. So So what he is trying to prove himself is showing just the opposite thing. So that is the irony of this poem. And irony is very vital feature of a dramatic monologue. And his grid is very promiscuous here. He is saying in this way we can understand it very easily. He is just a psychopath, a sadist. Now there are a list of some books that you can go through if you want to know about Browning more. I have given the list. I think one book is missed here. Okay. I am just note down. There is number 6. Robert Browning's poetry, selected and edited by James F. Laux, and it is the Ohio University. Okay, you can search for these books. If you want to know about Browning more, you can search for these books. Okay. So, thank you. Thank you for staying with me and exploring Robert Browning's My Last Duchess as a perfect example and excellent example of dramatic monologue. Wish you a very good day. Bye. We'll meet in the next video.